Howdy, hello Nan. Thanks for meeting with me today. I appreciate it. Just so before we get started, I wanted to mention that we're going to be recording today's interview on my cell phone, as well as just mention, of course, whatever you talk with me or whatever you disclose in terms of the questions I ask you, it's going to be purely confidentiality. I won't mention this to anyone, of course. This is what we're learning in the course, but as per the course, regulations and whatnot, if there's any suspicion of self-inflicting harm or harm towards others, I will have to report on that. Other than that, I've got some questions written down, so we'll get started with the first question.
Sure.
Okay, so my first question is, because you're in the criminal justice program, and
Yes.
this is something that I'm sure that you've been, thinking about for a while. But in that regard, what inspired you to join the criminal justice program?
That's a good question, man. So, actually, I started off going to the college earlier this year, and I was all in for power engineering. So, I was doing the highest physics, the highest math for high school. Didn't like it. I told my dad, I was like, I can't wait to be done this, so I can get right into a career. I was like, what do you think power engineering is, man? It's physics and math. So, I dropped out of both programs, and I went and talked to my grandparents after. My grandpa was a fish and wildlife officer for about 40 years, so a very long time. He said, man, you like fitness, you like helping people, you like rule following. I'm a big rule follower. He said, try criminal justice. He's like, do a semester, you're gonna love it, I guarantee you. And so I'm just in my first semester now, and I love it a lot.
All right, that's amazing. Congratulations for kind of figuring that along the way. Considering you're a little younger than young on the younger side of the spectrum, right? So honestly, youth, they have a hard time, figuring out what they want to do. So that's amazing. Glad you figured that out. And I guess to kind of touch bases on that, what have been the differences between, criminal justice and, electrical engineering and whatnot? Like, have there been was there anything that you gathered from electrical engineering that you've applied to now in criminal justice?
Honestly, they're just such a vastly different program that it's just one is all physics and math, and criminal justice is all social and English, so it's very different. If I had to choose something, it just would be math skills. You can use math skills anywhere, really, on the field, anywhere. Percentages for criminal statistics is a big one that I can use as well. But not much else transferred over from the two courses. They're very different courses.
All right, well, that's awesome. Glad you're figuring that out, because honestly, I probably would be lost trying to figure it out. But moving on to my next question. What was there a specific person, event, kind of like, some family members that you mentioned, or like that kind of put you on this path, influence your decisions to, guys, go more towards criminal justice?
For sure. So it'd be very hard to not include my mom and brother in this interview, because my mom actually was in the criminal justice program, but unfortunately had to drop out due to health conditions. My brother completed the criminal justice program through the Medicine Hat College, but has now decided he would like to go down different routes.
Okay.
But it would be my grandpa that had to have been the biggest influence for me to take the program.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. I'm kind of in a similar boat with the field that I'm in. There's some influence from family as well. That's amazing. And you mentioned health issues with your mom and whatnot. Do you think that there's a concern with those health issues arising for yourself, or is it completely separate?
There is a concern. I actually have some gray hair growing on my head, and I think it might be because my mom has vitiligo.
Vitiligo.
So it's a skin condition where the pigment in your skin doesn't develop, so she's almost like albino. And I'm pretty young to have gray hair. I'm 20 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, other than that, she has diabetes as well, so I am pre-exposed to diabetes, and not much more than that. I just hope for my health, of course.
Yeah, of course. And you mentioned that you're really big into exercise. Do you think that has like some kind of correlation of how you're going to engage, say if this, health condition does come up and whatnot? Is this like kind of like a good preventative for that health condition, or is it just something that could happen?
For sure, dude. I don't think there's ever an excuse not to exercise. It doesn't have to be weightlifting. It doesn't have to be running. But I do think that you should be moving throughout the day, even if it's just going on a half an hour walk. There's never going to be a downside to it.
Okay. And I guess that leads me to another question. How important is physical health in the criminal justice sector?
I'd go to the extent of saying extremely important. You need to pass a physical test to get into most programs,
Yeah.
as long as it's not more of a secretary or office jobs in the criminal justice.
Yeah.
So yeah, very important. You have to be able to run good. You have to be able to lift, not very much, but you just have to be in good enough shape that if you ever had to chase somebody down, that you'd be able to catch them without injuring yourself.
My principle for that is, if you can't lift your own body weight, then you shouldn't be doing the job
For
anyways.
sure, man, for sure.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that this physical health has kind of, influenced you to be more involved with criminal justice. Because I agree, it's definitely a very important asset to, someone who's going to be protecting the community and serving it with justice, correct?
For
And
sure.
So, absolutely agree with that. And I got another question. Moving on to the next question.
Yep.
Did you always know you wanted to go into criminal justice? Was this something that was like, I would be really good at this? Or was it just something that was influenced later on in life?
Yeah, so it was definitely influenced later on in life. When I was younger, I always wanted to do construction. I worked in a tire shop for about a year, very construction, kind of similar. And I didn't like it too much. It was too hard on my body. My back was hurting a lot. So it was definitely influenced later in life that I wanted to do criminal justice, and I never really realized how much I like following rules and how much I like helping people until you actually get to do it. It's a very rewarding feeling helping somebody.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, construction, it's not an easy feat.
No.
I applaud people who do that kind of work. Honestly, I guess with some of the comparisons with construction and criminal justice, do you think there's going to be some physical demanding things in criminal justice, policing or whatnot that you're going to see similarly to construction that you will disapprove of or not follow in pursuit of completely?
Yeah, so of course I haven't been in the field yet or anything, but I can imagine there are going to be times where you're going to have to move something to get somewhere, maybe kick in doors and stuff, because I do plan into going into tactical at the end of all of it, tactical forces. So I can definitely see it transferring over. Another thing that could transfer over is maybe your tire goes flat on the road. I'd assume they'd want you to know how to do that, but of course it's an assumption because I've never really been on the field yet.
Yeah, well, that's a good assumption. Everybody be surprised how many people don't know how to change a tire these days.
For sure, man.
So I had another question with that, but I guess it'll come up later. And next question that I have for you: how do your personal values connect to the field of criminal justice?
My personal values, I'm a strong rule follower. I don't like breaking rules, and I also don't like hurting people. I like helping people a lot more. When I was a bit younger, around 17, 18, I was very heavy into drinking, and I discovered very early on that I'm not a very nice drunk. I'm more of an aggressive drunk, so I decided to take that out of my life and take all negative things in my life and only put positive things. So I kind of just have values of I never want to hurt people and I always want to help when I can.
No, it's very wise. Honestly, I can commend that for sure. It's not an easy decision to have something that is a part of society for a lot of people, and then have to say no to that. And I guess with that in mind, would you say with the drinking, and this is a little bit more of a personal question,
For sure.
that it's more of the people that you hang out with, or is it something that you're just innately more aggressive when you consume alcohol?
I strongly believe it's the people you hang out with. At the grad parties for when I graduated high school was what really got me into it. And almost all of those parties, they would do things like Oklahoma drills. They did slap fights, very aggressive stuff. So I think that maybe my brain kind of realized that once it consumes alcohol, it's time to do something more aggressive.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Glad you know that distinction and whatnot. That's really, really impressive. So, moving on to the next question, though, I have for you. What does justice mean to you personally?
Justice means creating a world where everybody is safe and everybody has equal opportunities and fairness. It's an unbiased concept, and that's really the best words I can think to describe it.
Unbiased. Okay.
Unbiased.
I like that word, and I definitely agree that the justice system or the word justice, it falls those means quite quite closely and whatnot. And I guess with how you see the criminal justice system right now, and that are compared to your beliefs in the justice system, how do they contradict and how do they, I guess, align and whatnot? Because of course, not every police officer and branch of the department is the same and whatnot. So how do you feel you're going to navigate those types of environments if they contradict your sense of what justice should look like?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna come to the best understanding of what those other branches their values might be. I'm not gonna let them stomp all over my values and discriminate or anything. I just want to make sure that everybody has fair opportunities, everybody stays comfortable around each other, and there's no hostile arguments or anything going on in the workplace.
I like that a lot. And that leads me to another question that you mentioned, touching on hostile situations and environments. Has there ever been a moment in your personal life with family or with friends and whatnot where there has been a moment like that that's influenced you to make the better choice, kind of be like the older brother in the scenario?
Yeah. I can't really say that there has, to be honest. I've lived a pretty good life.
Okay. Well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Don't want to hope for that, And so, which leads me to my next question. What has been your favorite course in the program so far? What's impressed you?
That's kind of a tough question because all the courses that I'm taking criminal justice-wise are very different.
Yep.
I do really like the theories of crime because it kind of explains how nothing is really ever what it seems.
Yeah.
But I just like all of them, man. It's all interesting to me, even the laws and stuff. I find fascinating. I like learning. I want to be the best I can be when I get to the career. So I treat almost every class with the same amount of effort.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy that you're going at it with kind of like a rookie mindset. Whatever is coming your way, you'll act accordingly, adapt. Is what we like to call that. So thanks for answering that. Next question.
Yep.
Is it has there been anything that has challenged your beliefs or surprised your belief system? Because of course everyone's different. Every police officer, we've kind of touched bases on this a little bit. But what has surprised you? As you've come to learn certain things within the justice.
So my biggest surprise would have to be the penalties given to people through the liberal justice system. I think that they should be more harsh. I don't think that people should murder somebody and plead manslaughter and be able to get out of jail within 5 years through good behavior. I think that they should be more strict. I think taking somebody's life is something that's unacceptable and should be treated like it's something that's unacceptable and not something that is a oops or a mistake.
That's totally fair and totally valid. I see, the key strong points, how you'd want to, I guess, mitigate, such, violent crimes. It's a big thing within, especially the United States, and, it's sort of a thing in Canada, not as much, thankfully, but absolutely agree. I can, add value to those points for sure. And, moving on to the next question that I have for you. How do you balance the theoretical, perspectives versus the practical ones?
It's a really good question. So theoretical ones, I really like to learn about them more, but it tends to be difficult because if you look at through everything from a theoretical perspective, you'll never get anything done. You'll just be able to back up everything from both sides, and then on the other hand, if you look at things through practical and just follow note by note, you'll probably get more results and feel more at ease of mind rather than just thinking to yourself that, well, I did this, but it could have been because of this, or this guy's guilty, but he's actually innocent according to this theory, or it's just looking at things through more of a practical perspective, especially through policing, is probably the best way to look at things.
Absolutely. So, theory only gets you so far, and then coming into the actual situation, then you have to actually make that, you're right, that decision, because there's so many things that can contradict that. Absolutely. I definitely see that perspective.
Yeah.
Next question I have for you. What kinds of research have you done in your program that have, also surprised you? Also, been like, oh, that is not something I thought of before, but...
Yeah. The biggest research that kind of made me think about things was the manslaughter murder thing and how people can get away with taking another human's life so easily. A good example of this was on a Greyhound bus. I don't really remember how long ago. I think it was in Winnipeg though. Somebody took another man's life. I won't go into too much detail because it's a little graphic, but they ended up saying that it was due to a epileptic episode, and he ended up only getting about 4 years and was released. But I just think if you're having episodes like that you shouldn't be on the streets.
Okay, that leads me to another question then. Because of, mental illness and social inequalities and whatnot that, of course derive all of society, whether we like it or not, how do your values align with, trying to go about searching for the best method of practice to go about mental health issues within the criminal justice system? Because you're right, it's a big thing.
For sure. I think mental health is something to be taken very seriously. I think suicide rates are something that has spiked a lot in these last couple of years, especially since COVID. And I think that it should be taken as serious, as big as a thing as it is in the world.
Yeah.
That there should definitely be more preventions. Check up on your friends, check up on your family, make sure everyone's always doing okay.
Yeah, that's a great way to go on about that. And how would you, I guess in the perfect world, how would you want people to engage with that? Because of course it's easier said than done to like, hey, go visit your folks, go visit with your family, your friends, if they're not doing well.
Yeah.
To assume that, people need help and aid, how would you want people to go about seeking, support for their friends and their family, or even for yourself?
For sure. I just think it's important. You don't even have to find time to go see them. You'd be surprised by what a text or a phone call, 10-minute phone call can do. I have had personal experiences with friends who have suffered from mental health issues and have thought of things such as suicide. And just me giving them a little phone call, telling them that I care about them and I'm here for them, really just changed their mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely heart-filling, especially in society that we live in today, that's very, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
For sure, man.
That leads me to a next question. How have your professional classmates, how have your professors or your classmates influenced you in the criminal justice program?
For sure. Professors tell a lot of stories. This is one of my theories. I think on the first day they were kind of trying to scare people out of it because they started with really harsh stories. They said it is one of the careers out there where you do have a chance of dying and not coming home. So it just kind of made me look at a lot of people differently. It's kind of hard to trust people after learning about just how much goes on and how unpredictable people can be. But it also kind of makes you understand maybe why people do things that they do.
Absolutely. And I have a question with that one. I'm trying to remember. Was it go back? You have to forgive me if I'm taking pauses and just trying to gather my thoughts and whatnot. But yeah, absolutely. And I find that with each situation, it's going to be very different. Of course, each classmate and professor is going to have a different idea, different thought process, right? So I couldn't agree more. So, but the next question.
Yep.
What career path are you hoping to pursue? I know you mentioned tactical and whatnot, but
Yes.
Is there other fields that kind of pique your interest as well?
There is. So my end goal would be to do tactical because I like de-escalating situations. I want to make sure that everybody's safe and the most people that can make it out alive do make it out alive. I would never want to take another human's life, but if it means it was for the greater good of humanity, it's probably a sacrifice I'd be willing to make. If I couldn't do tactical for whatever reason, then I would want to do canine. Just because I think it's as well a very rewarding career, teaching and watching a dog grow up that can become your partner and companion for most of the time you're in the police force.
Absolutely. And from what I understand about I guess the police force, there are roles that you can rotate into,
Sure.
And so if you were able to do tactical, for a good portion of it, would you want to then maybe pursue something else later down the line?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, even to get into tactical, you have to do several years just on a city police force, just to gain the knowledge and experience you need. but yeah, most of my even professors go through multiple different career choices just throughout their whole entire time in the criminal justice program.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Hopefully, you seem to have it figured out now. Hopefully, it's figured out later down the line.
For sure,
because
man.
it can get can get confusing. Going on to my next question.
Yep.
Are you more interested in how enforcement, corrections, legal studies, or something else that I guess that is involved with the criminal justice system? I guess to rephrase the question a little bit better for you, is there a certain aspect in the criminal justice system that other than tactical and other than canine that is kind of influenced you a little bit more to be like, okay, this is an actual serious thing. I know you mentioned the theoretical, your professors
Yep.
who've mentioned stories and whatnot, but has there been actual classwork where you're like, okay, this is actual serious stuff other than pre-consumptions?
Yeah. I'm gonna be completely honest. That's probably a bit too deep of a question for me right now, but I can think about it and get back to you if you'd
Absolutely.
like.
Thank you for mentioning that to me.
Yeah, of
Go to the
course.
next question. What kind of impact do you hope to have or hope to make in the community?
The biggest impact would be that I just want the community to feel safe. I want people to be able to walk in even places like our city here, Medicine Hat, like walking in downtown and feel safe. But I also don't want to create bad relationships with any people that could be charged as criminals.
It's 21 minutes.
Yeah, that's good. Let's just keep going.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to refine my space here. Okay, so the community, you're wanting to, kind of keep it a safe place.
For
Keep
sure.
it, like everybody's hope and goal. So that's
Yes,
definitely very
of course.
noble.
Yeah.
I guess with that though, are you hoping to branch anywhere else, other than in town, or is in town kind of your?
I would hope to stay in Medicine Hat here, but if I had to, I'd be willing to move to Lethbridge, Calgary, or Edmonton.
Okay. What inspires you to go to those places?
I was born in Edmonton. I feel like Calgary has a very nice city, a lot of opportunities in Calgary, and Lethbridge close to home. And if there's an opportunity for me there, I'd for sure take it.
Okay, that's awesome. Definitely being open-minded, to change and whatnot. That's very important. And I guess
Yep.
just before we end, I'm gonna ask a couple more questions, or maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap her up.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So one of my last questions: if you could give one piece of advice to someone thinking about joining the criminal justice program, what would that advice be?
My biggest piece of advice would probably be to make sure it's something you actually want to do. Maybe talk to somebody that's been in the criminal justice program before, because it does, from what I hear from professors and people we've had come in to talk, like victims assistants, it does have a big toll on your mental health. You'll see and hear things that the public doesn't usually hear, so just make sure to take the time and make sure that it's something that you really want to do before you do it.
Yeah. That leads me to another question, because it's I couldn't agree more with having that, I guess, that desire to go in. You have to want to go into this, because it's a lot of work and whatnot. Do you feel like there's a lot of people who don't do that in the criminal justice sector of the field, who just go into it with the wrong intentions?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely people that go into it with the wrong intentions. They want to go in to help, and then maybe one day they have to draw their gun or something, and they no longer feel like they're helping and quit. So it's a big mental health thing. You have to make sure you're cut for it. You have to make sure that you know what you're going into.
Absolutely. No, it's very strong. It's a very big commitment, and I can applaud you for sure, because I've also had thoughts of doing criminal justice myself, and it's one of the things that deterred me in a way was waking up early in the morning and the shifts and whatnot. It's definitely not brilliant, but it's definitely rewarding in its own sense, and so I definitely applaud you for taking this up, because it's no easy feat. So definitely well, good on you.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Thanks, man.
Of course. But with that being said, we are a little bit over on time, as we've noted too, and so I just wanted to end off with just mentioning again that this conversation is just between me and you. It's not going anywhere else. I don't have any suspicion that anything is up or anything is anything wrong. I'm just really impressed. So good on you, Nolan. But with that being said, I hope their career endeavors go absolutely well, and hopefully we can have more people like you in the criminal justice field.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for the talk.
As well.